On this episode of the Whiskey Tornado, we review Remus Gatsby Reserve. The Remus Gatsby Reserve celebrates F. Scott Fitzgerald's classic novel, The Great Gatsby, which examines Prohibition-era America during the Jazz Age. The bourbon, crafted by master distiller Ian Sturzman and his team at Ross & Squibb, formerly known as MGP, is made with 15-year-old reserves of straight bourbon whiskey. This limited release comes in at 48.9% alcohol and costs between $200 and $250. Now that you know the stats, let's get into the review. Welcome back to another episode of the Whiskey Tornado. I'm your host, Lance. I am really excited to review this limited release from MGP. I'm sorry, Ross & Squibb. I still want to call it MGP, guys. You guys that have been following the channel for a while know that I love some MGP bourbon, and I really love some aged MGP bourbon. Today, we're going to dive into the nose, palate, finish, and then I'll give you kind of my stats on everything else. We'll score this. I'll let you know if this is bar-worthy or bunker-worthy. Normally, I've started skipping the appearance, but we have to talk about the appearance of this bottle. I'm going to go ahead and just grab this back here. It comes in a beautiful collector's box. You know, this is a limited edition, obviously by the outrageous price. It's just the way bourbon prices are going, guys. I'm telling you, a lot of these companies are about to price me out of buying their brands anymore. But here we go. We got Ross & Squibb. It's Remus Gatsby Reserve. Box opens beautifully. I mean, this is one of my favorite bottles as far as appearance goes. It's got this beautiful Art Deco design that kind of calls back to the 1920s. I felt like we just had to talk about it because it's just a beautiful bottle. Box could be a little better made, but that's okay. I'll forgive them. Put this back here. But as you guys can see, the bottle is an absolute piece of work. I don't know how much this thing would cost to produce, but I'm imagining a lot of money. The cork is probably the heaviest cork ever put on a bottle. This is even heavier than the Wild Turkey Master's Keep corks. So right off the bat, we have got a perfect score on appearance. All right, let's get a pour of this. I am so excited to dive into this, guys. It just gets me excited to taste older MGP, and this is a 15-year bourbon coming in at 97.8 proof or 48.9% alcohol, which I'm guessing, since it's so low and we're talking about a cask strength bourbon, that this was probably aged on lower floors. So let's get into the nose, everybody. Let me give it the old Whiskey Tornado swirl. Coat the glass here. Let's get into this. I mean, on the nose, we're starting off real good, guys. Lots of honey, lots of oak, cinnamon, maybe some like clove in there. That beautiful, beautiful dusty rick house that I often get on some Heaven Hill products, especially like Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. This, I mean, I would probably, on the nose, I would guess this to be like a Heaven Hill Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Very, very good mixture of that sweet honey, cinnamon, clove, dusty rick house, oak. I mean, there's oak all over this thing. But really, really nice. I'm going to give the nose a 0.7. I'm not bumping it to that 0.8 because it's just, I don't get a lot of fruitiness in this. It smells fantastic. Don't get me wrong. That nuttiness is kind of coming off like cinnamon covered like pralines or pecans. You know, you get those bags at like Christmas markets that are roasted. Smells absolutely beautiful. I'm going to give the nose a 0.7. All right, everybody, let's take a sip. Cheers. Lots of oak on that first sip. Now, the different flavors that I'm getting from the oak, getting that like dusty rick house, those pralines, cinnamon, clove, maybe even a little bit of anise or black licorice note there. I often get that on super aged bourbon. The oak notes come off a little bit like an anise or black licorice, which I normally don't like, but when I know it's tied to oak, for some reason, my brain's okay with it. This is really nice on the first sip, but it's just like on the first sip, I got overwhelming oak and my brain just trying to decipher all those different flavors I'm tasting that remind me of a heavy oak presence. All right, let's go into the second sip, see if we can find anything else. Nice honey. A little bit more nuttiness is coming through now. Again, those like cinnamon covered pralines or pecans you get at Christmas markets in a bag. That's really coming through heavy. Honey, even like there was a slight fruitiness there. I don't know if that's like berries or cherries. It wasn't to the point, you know, there's a lot of brands like Calumet 16, Wild Turkey, 17-year bottle and bond, where you get that big oak presence, and you get, when I get cloves, sometimes I'll also get like a medicinal cherry. That I don't get a medicinal note, but there's a slight cherry or slight berry note, but it's just covered. I mean, absolutely, like if you had some cherries in a bowl, it would just be covered with all of that oak. But again, you guys often hear me on when I describe craft whiskeys or younger distilleries, when I talk about oak, it's that fresh cut wood. This isn't that. This is that aged oak. So again, more of those cinnamon, praline, dusty rickhouse kind of notes, sweet oak, not that fresh cut wood oak. All right, third sip here. On the third sip, it's just ever evolving. A little more of the berries start to come through. I start to be able to pick up a little more berries, and the oak isn't so prominent. But again, it's still there. You got a lot of baking spices, those cloves, cinnamons, kind of vanillas. And again, that black licorice anise note kind of is threaded through the entire thing. This is a good whiskey. The problem that I'm having is, again, this is a $200 to $250 bottle, and we'll talk about value in a little bit. But when I'm talking about if the palate's good, I have to also consider the price of this. And right now my brain is going, is this that much better? Is this 2 times better than a Remus 3, 4, 5? I haven't had the latest one that came out, but it tastes a lot like those prior Remus batches to me. Not like your younger 5, 6 year MGP. This starts moving towards that Elijah Craig barrel proof on a very low proof scale to me, but it's tasting more of like the DNA of an Elijah Craig barrel proof if you had those at 100 proof rather than the young MGP bourbon. Again, really good, but you know, the price is just killing me on the palate here. But the palate is good. I'm gonna give it a 0.7. I don't think it's exceptional because I'll explain on the body and the finish. I don't think it moves into that exceptional category, but what's there is really nice. The only thing I'm knocking it for a little bit on the palate is it's a little bit drying because of that oak influence. All right, moving on to the finish, guys. The real problem I'm having with this is the finish. It is so short. Again, you're talking about a cask strength bourbon at 48.9%, and the finish just falls off, and you find yourself taking a sip, trying to pick up those flavors, and then going, shoot, it's gone. I got to go back and have another sip. Is it crushable? Yeah, it's crushable. It goes down pretty easy. You could kill this bottle pretty easy if you weren't careful, and if you didn't know, it costs $250. But the finish is very lackluster for me, way less than average. I'm gonna give it a 0.3. All right, guys, I quickly talked about the value, but again, this is a $200 to $250 bottle. You know, the age statement on it being cask strength certainly justifies the price. However, the bourbon inside, for me, the palate has to line up. The palate, the finish, the body all have to line up to a $250 bourbon. I don't care how old it is. I just want good bourbon. You can give me 5-year bourbon. If it tastes unbelievable, I'll pay whatever for it. That's fine. I just want good bourbon, expensive bourbon to taste really good. And while this is good, you know, they've came out with the Remus 3, 4, and 5 in the past years. That's $80 to $90. That's just as good in my opinion. It'd be really interesting to taste these side by side, see if I'm remembering that correctly. but it's just not worth it on the value side. I have to give this a 0.1. $250 is too expensive for this bourbon. So to break this down, we gave the appearance a 1. It's perfect. The bottle could not be more beautiful. It's what you expect in a limited edition release. The availability is a 0.2. I did find this on the shelf, so if it was good enough, it could go in our Bourbon of the Year rating. But again, with my scoring system, oftentimes my bourbons of the year have to have fantastic value, and this just doesn't, so it's gonna hurt the overall score. The nose we gave a 0.7, the palate a 0.7. The finish was the worst of all categories at a 0.3. The body is a 0.4 to a 0.5. Again, it could be better. And then the value, of course, is a 0.1. And that brings our total score for Remus Gatsby Reserve to a 2.9, making it not bar worthy. Now, keep in mind, value crushed this thing for me. I'm a middle income guy with 2 daughters getting ready to go to college. So $250 is a lot for me. If I spend $250 on a bourbon, I need it to be fantastic. And for me, this is good, but it's not fantastic. If it were $80 to $100 bottle, this would be up there and be an outstanding bottle of bourbon to buy. Now, if you make a lot more money than me and you have a lot of money to waste on bourbon, then I do think this would be bar worthy because it's a beautiful bottle. It's fun to have a 15-year-old cask strength bourbon at 48.9% sitting on your bar. Anybody would be excited if you brought this bottle out for them. But for me, it's just not bar worthy. I would say try this in a bar rather than buy it. All right, guys, man, I hate it when I have such high hopes for a bottle and it crushes me, but this is the way bourbon is going. Many brands are pricing me out. I'm almost done spending, 150 plus on bottles for average bourbon. I'm just not gonna follow the trend probably, but luckily for you guys, I have a review channel and I have wonderful Patreon members, so I get to keep wasting money so you guys don't have to. If you guys enjoyed this review, please like, comment, subscribe. I'm hoping the next review is a better one. Cheers, everybody. And what a gorgeous bottle. I paid $250 for an $80 bourbon. That's what the world's coming to.